All right, team. Welcome back to the Strong Life Podcast. Anthony Schlegelville, Schlegmaestro, Dominate, the difference maker. I'm pumped to have you on, brother. Thanks for taking the time.
Zach, I appreciate you having me on. I love the title of that podcast. I mean, it's the strength game is a life. It's a way of life. You know,
Yeah.
It's not. People don't really understand it, but they don't have to, nor do they want to. It's funny. My wife and I were driving today, and she was just talking to me like, "You don't know how blessed you are that our kids are this way, and I'm this way." I'm like, "Yeah, you know why? Because I would never be around them. That's
right.
That's why I don't want to know them. I like the way that we do it. I like our standard of excellence. So it was great. It's great.
I love the getting right into the parenting. And when other dads ask me, "Hey, how do you get your kids? How do you motivate them to exercise?" I always tell them, you could tell them to do it all you want, but if they see you doing it, they think this is normal activity. Oh, daddy's deadlifting 700 again. That's what we do.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this, so my oldest son, not like me at all. And again, that's great.
Yes.
We're all unique. We're all, beautifully and wonderfully made. So it's finding what connects, right? That's honestly what being an educator and a coach is.
Right.
It's finding what's going to move the needle in that individual person. I found with my oldest, he likes training with his friends.
Yes.
And honestly, I think that he has a tremendous amount of discipline. Mike Tyson has said discipline is doing what you hate to do as though you love it.
Yes.
And we drove back from Ohio to Florida, and I'm like, we are working out today. We didn't get to really work out a ton while we were in Ohio. Yes, we still played catch. Yes, he threw a flat ground. Yes, he took some cuts into the net, but we didn't train during that five-day period. So we're going to get it out of us right now, and we're going to do a push-pull upper because you have a tournament this weekend, and that gives you 48 hours until you go play, and you'll be ready. Actually, I think a little bit more than that. And as 72 hours. I'm like, this is the plan. This is how you do it. So that being said, he came in, he's kind of disgruntled. My daughter, she was like, "Dad, how about I'm tired, but how about I take like a scoop of pre-workout?" I said, "No." I was like, "You can take do a third, because a third will probably be a half or it'll be a quarter. That's fine. Let her guess." She took it. She loved it. And she had a great workout. But then my son got into it. He had a great workout, and he's like, "Yeah, I really needed that." So but I trained with them, and that's kind of the process. They see dad, and now they're totally involved in it. And now their friends come and train, and that's how you move the needle. My daughter, she just wanted to get better on her jumps for cheer. She's a go-getter. She enjoys working out like I do.
How old is she?
She's 15. But
and
again, for women, he's 16. Okay. But for women, even listen, man, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. You are strong. You're an independent person. You don't need what this world is telling you. And I think a great way of educating them in that is in the weight room. It builds
you're my long lost twin.
Yeah. Well, I just, and even for guys, right? When kids get exposed, and again, I'm a believer, but you got to live in the world and not be of the world. And if you want your kids to make really hard, tough decisions, give them the confidence to do so. And you got to put them in an environment where mentally, spiritually, from their heart, have to make decisions, right? And the point is this: why would you want to go out there and vape and smoke dope and get drunk when you're 16, 17? Yeah, I know that they're doing it, but let's go back and let's think about hitting with a coach. You're pitching with a coach. The amount of training sessions that you and I have, all your practices, you want to go dump that for this? You know what I'm saying? Think about it. If you do, make that decision and go about it. But at least I've equipped them in this manner to also be confident to where my yes is yes and my no is no in those situations.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but unless we do that to them, right, then it's just throwing them out there to chance. And I'm not going to throw them out there to chance. Now, my youngest does not whatsoever like to train. And
how old is your youngest?
He's 11.
Yeah.
And very different. Now he's got the juice. He's got some really, again, God just blesses people with different things. He's going to be super tall. He's lanky. He does not have my build. he's uniquely him. I don't ever want him to lose that. But I found like he played like in Florida, they have golf in the middle school. And I'm like, this is amazing. So literally fifth grade, he was in fifth grade playing against eighth graders, male or female, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Women just play from the red tees and the dudes play from the grays. But he's competing. And I'm like, hey, bro, let's go hit balls. You know, like let's try. He doesn't want to. Now, he's ADHD and all this stuff. And I used to be completely against all that growing up. But that's how I grew up. I grew up that mental illness was taboo. Though both my parents bipolar and depressed, craziness, but it's real. And so, but again, you work through that process with him, and I see him now. Like I literally bought a return net and a mat, and I put it outside because he got anxious about the drive and his time to the place. He's like, well, he's computing in his head. It's a 30-minute drive there and back. And I'm going to work. That's an hour and a half to 2 hours away from doing what I want to do. Well, that kid, if you want him to go move that needle, you got to put kind of some of that stuff right directly in front of him.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they
I've
are the
heard,
customer.
yeah, this is so funny because my kids are about your age. My daughter is almost 17 and my son will be 15 in a couple of weeks. But, my daughter, are you in Florida right now, by the way, or Ohio?
Florida, man. I'm in Florida.
Oh, wow. So we go to Florida quite a bit for my kids because of tennis and now also baseball, like the Boca
Yep.
area.
Oh, yeah.
But my daughter, I guess because tennis is so intense, she had that like go get it thing happening. My
Right.
son sounded like what you're saying, like he wasn't into it, but they grew up in my gym because I opened a gym in town. I trained in the garage. So since like they were a year and a half, they saw me like pushing the truck up the street,
Yeah.
sprinting. But my son was never like he'd come to the gym, was kind of like not so much into it, but he did it for 10 years, like sneaking things in. Then him and his buddy started going to the gym. You said your son likes to train with his friends.
Yep.
Now they're like, now I'm telling him like, hey man, maybe you don't do that. But then I heard you on a couple of podcasts, and you and I kind of grew up training wrong. You went to Metroflex. I grew up training in a bodybuilding gym, doing German volume training, Bulgarian system.
I would say this. Like, I don't think I think the greatest lesson that Metroflex and how you grew up trained, like the lesson is the attitude and intensity of which it takes to be elite.
Yes.
You can't replicate it. And I would honestly say this too. I feel my best gains are from when I'm one body part a day. That's just me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now I have, like I said, a 16 or 15-year-old. Like today, I'll give you a snapshot of our lower body day. We did 25. And I like some of the Rob Winning warm-ups of the volume.
Matt Winning.
Matt Winning. Yeah. I need more. Rob Winning actually is an assistant strength coach for New Orleans Saints. But yeah, okay. Matt, great dude.
Yep.
Anyways, I like some of his. Now, I've always been a big proponent of activating the muscles that we want to use. Now, I never did it to his volume.
Right.
But I liked the premise of and Josh Bryant, who's a good friend of mine from Jailhouse Strong.
Yeah.
Josh is amazing.
Yes.
And again, he was a big proponent of, well, if you're going to warm up for squatting, squat, right? Because I'm the motor units and the pattern that I'm going to replicate and do it. So I like that as a warm up, and I've kind of incorporated some of those things. So like today we did TKEs, 25 with green bands. Again, I'm just flexing the quads and warming those up. Did 25 reverse hypers, real light, just posterior chain activation. I did plank series, and I'm activating my core front and sides. And then I did like a goblet squat.
Perfect.
Heels elevated, just really good range of motion. And then I went into now my neighbor Frank. So I got my neighbor Frank Manghisi. So he's a retired New Jersey State Highway Patrol guy. He's really awesome.
I wonder where he was from, because I'm in New Jersey.
Are you?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Well, I'm right down the street is the State Trooper Barracks where they do the academy. It's called C. Well, it's right on the beach. There. That's where he went through.
So I don't know where they were like from.
Yeah.
He's awesome though. So then his daughter that's in high school, he's got two other daughters that are in college. They all played lacrosse. She's a junior. She's going to, I want to say, Queens College in North Carolina. She's a junior. She was rehabbing and she's coming over and she's right now ready to start getting into training again. And my daughter does cheer. And I'm like, hey, let's get bumpy. So we're doing, again, a little bit of front contrast. Some people could call it triphasic, whatever. It doesn't matter. All these things have been around for a really, really freaking long time. Okay. There's conjugate method. Like there's so many different things.
Yeah.
But the number one premise is, do you buy into them? Do you have the attitude and intensity to train really freaking hard? And then do you take care of your body so you can recover? Because you can only grow from where you can recover from. I would say probably my biggest thing in those gyms right back in the day is I didn't necessarily do a great job of recovering. Now, also,
Correct.
I was very young and we had just a motor. That's why I'm like, dude, you're fine. But
That's all right.
I'm a little bit more cognitive of it now. So we did a warm up. We did clean pulls from the floor. I have a Tendo, so I'm using it. I love velocity-based training because it keeps you in the guardrails. That's what I think it's for.
Yep.
So we did some clean pulls, and then we supersetted that with a broad jump. Then we did a weighted vest vertical jump, and then we did some assisted banded vertical jumps. We did 4 rounds of that. Boom. CNS.
I love that.
Okay. Then we did chain squats for them, back squats, just introducing it real light. They had to move it at 0.7. And then we did some pal off press and hip mobility work.
Perfect.
Then we did GHR, GHR, lateral lunge, banded hip flexor and calf, and then band stretch and there done. That's it.
That's solid.
Now, normally I like to run. I would run on that day before, but I didn't have really time. So anyways, I say all that to like, that's how I have been training. Now, absolute strength is key, in my opinion, to also being able to be explosive. However, I've always been like a diesel. So there's dudes that are just twitchy dudes. And then there's dudes that are just freaking diesel dudes. It's just,
yes,
we're all different. But I can honestly tell you this, I don't do a ton of max effort lifting conjugate based. 1 rep, I kind of save it for like, I would say 92, 95%. I stay like in that wheelhouse of 90. If I'm going to go one rep, I'd even maybe say 87.5 to 95. I tried to keep the guardrail 3.5 or above, 0.35 or above, even 4.
You're talking about for yourself, Anthony, or when you train others?
This is for myself. This is for myself. I'm talking about like on that sub max.
Yes.
And like for my kids, I would say I stay in that 75 to 85% range.
I'm with you.
Yeah, but I will say this. If I want to go get it, I know my body, I'll go get it. If I feel them and based upon where their sports are, I'll let them go get it. But here's the thing. I have been doing this. And I had deadlifted, I don't know, raw, conventional in a long ass time. And I went and pulled 620 in a pair of jeans and freaking Rocky boots the other day. I would say probably pretty easy. I probably had 650 in the tank, but I don't do it a lot. Now that goes back to conjugate because I'm never doing it for that reason. I'll go sumo, I'll go deficit, I'll go, heavier, I'll go high handle trap bar, low handle trap bar, banded, whatever, right? I do all those things.
Strong is strong.
All I'm saying is strong is strong. And I have found that there is at some point marginal return. And I think this is where everybody gets caught up in, right? Like when I played in the league, I played for the Jets and I played for the Bengals. And I look back at myself and I could deadlift well over 700 pounds and I could squat well over 600 pounds. But damn it, I should have been 235 as opposed to 250. I should have worked on more hip mobility. And because me at 250 and me at 235, I have a rock for a head and I'm ultra violent. So that's not going to help me make a roster.
Right.
What's going to help me make a roster is to be able to run and play in space and make tackles on special teams. Now, I didn't necessarily think of it at that time, but I know it now. And having coached at the Division I college level at Ohio State and having coached as a strength coach for the Jaguars, I know that's what matters. Because nobody gives two flips about how much you bench, how much you squat, how
I
much you
say that
deadlift.
all the
Power in the
time to
ground
the
is power in the
kids.
ground. Yeah, I mean, you got to. And everybody's looking at all these people doing all these things. The reason I post deadlift, I mean, yeah, the reason I like posting me deadlift is because guess what? I love to deadlift. You don't see me posting a lot about benching. That's because I don't have a labrum in my left shoulder and I don't have my rotator cuffs and I got a ton of arthritis. So I really don't even touch my chest a lot. I use a block. I'll use bands around my elbows.
Yeah.
I just do whatever I can do so I can actually bench and feel really good. I get a ton of volume doing dips and dumbbell work.
Yeah.
But
Dips
in
are
neutral
great.
grip stuff, yeah. So it's like, so everybody don't get caught up into what is it that moves the needle. If you are a power lifter, that's a different ball game because you are in that space. But in the
Yeah.
athletic world, right? Who gives two craps if you squat a 405 if you're hurt the next week,
The high
right?
school kids, I think, are who, like, you know, I think the college kids get it. They're also coached, as you know. You're always you have coaches and assistant coaches in the room. I'm at the high school level, and today I had football with some wrestlers, some lacrosse players, and like a dozen girls soccer players. So we're looking at like 60 athletes.
Yeah.
And you know what you're saying
And
is like
kind of different programs too.
you've got these little tweaks going on, or somebody wasn't in yesterday, so they've got to get a full body day. So you're today might be upper, but you weren't here yesterday. So now I'm doing a hybrid full body for you. But we were doing speed bench, and I see a kid going to bench 185. I said, I explained speed is going to be 50% of what we normally do. So I said, you got 185? I said, that's what I was using when I could bench 350. Can you bench 350? He's
Right.
like, I said, you can't. I said, but if you don't want to listen, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to
Yeah,
let
let
you
you get
go
go
ahead.
get smashed.
Yeah, you want if you have so it's interesting, like at the high school level, you have to give them this freedom to do it. Like you're saying your son likes to train with his friends. My son started training with his buddy who's a wrestler, and my son is baseball and basketball. But as you know, and a lot of people don't notice about you're a state champ wrestler from Texas. And so the wrestling mindset, that mentality, it's like different, very
Well,
different.
I would say this one. There is no tougher job than being a high school strength coach and being able to have that. It's also a lot of the lessons that I've learned came from being a collegiate strength coach because my job, I would have 12 guys on four racks, three guys to a rack. And my job was in essence always to make them me, right? I mean, I played at Ohio State, played in the league, tough guy, but they all needed something different. Some needed a hug, some needed a size 12 up the ass. Some guys, just needed just straight up beat down sessions to where I was going to make them quit. They all needed a little something different.
Yeah.
So they all had a little bit different program. And strength coaches have to adapt very, very quickly and articulate that in a manner in which the athlete can do it and then do it safely. There's no greater challenge than at the high school level because you're dealing with a multitude of things. You're dealing with training experience, though a lot of times in college, we've onboarded, right? Programmed them to be at a certain level.
Yes.
We know exactly what they're doing. We can hold them accountable if they miss a day because they're not going to just do a total body. They're going to come back in on the weekend. Tough, right? So we're going to make that work. But now you're dealing with gender, right? So you got girls different, right? Boom. Other aspects that are involved there. Then you have multiple sports. But I will say this, like even from my background, I love, especially at that level, all these different groups learning how to train together. Because the number one thing we impressed upon kids at Ohio State, athletes at Ohio State, is you're accountable for your teammate. Now I'm gonna push the crap out of you, but like at the end of the day, when it comes from, and Bobby Carpenter used to make fun of me, but it's dude on dude accountability, or dudette on dudette accountability. That's when the program's gonna have a lot of success.
Agreed.
Like you look at all the great bodybuilders, they had great training partners. You look at all the great power lifters, they had great training partners.
Great
iron
wrestlers.
Sharpens iron, right? Competitive excellence is competitive excellence. It's why the elite of the Sabins, the Urbans, and all these guys talk about competitive excellence. I'm not afraid of competition. I personally went to Ohio State. They had AJ Hawk, Bobby Carpenter, and another guy, Mike DeAndre, who's the number one linebacker, defensive player in the country. Well, you go there because you want to compete against the best because you believe that you are the best. And so that makes everybody else better. And in your space, the more you can relay that to people, the better they're going to be.
That
And
was our
side nugget,
closeout today. We closed
yeah,
out with that today. We got a banner. I'll send it to you. But it goes something like it's like the different mentality, and it's like losing, average, winning, championships. Championships under it spoke about player inspires others to be great. Winning was you're inspired to be great. Championships was inspiring others. What
yep.
Schlegs, what do you think? Like, if you look back to your time coaching at Ohio State and also Jacksonville, because I've got buddies in the NFL and they tell me they still have to go and pull guys out of the locker room and say, hey, you actually have to train because you're going to get fined. And so, what do you think was like a communication skill that worked really great for communicating with the athlete that was maybe operating on a 8 out of 10 when you needed to get them to a 10 out of 10? Did you acquire or pick up on a communication skill that you felt was very helpful, or was it just different for everybody?
That's a great question. I think it's something that resonates with everybody. And this goes past just like the NFL. If you give a shit, they'll show up. I think that's number one. Number two is I think everything is business. And again, this goes back to I was very fortunate. So I've been very blessed. My dad was a college and high school football coach who loved the weight room and was always in the weeds of strength conditioning back in, I mean, the 70s and 80s. And he and I used to fight like hell. But he trained me, man. Like he got me the juice for training. Then I met Brian Dobson at Metroflex Gym, and he's one of my best friends. I had him to look up to. Then I get hired by Eric Lichter at Ohio State with Jim Tressel, and Eric is phenomenal,
I follow
phenomenal at
Eric.
speed work.
Yeah,
Yeah, great. And then I worked for Mickey Marotti, who really changed my landscape of. I mean, the guy's won multiple national championships. Just from West Lib, absolute grinder, understands the mentality and the culture and how that allows you to take great teams to championship level teams. And Mick also is the one that really nudged me of getting a master's because the strength game goes to like if you're going to be a head strength coach, you have to have a master's in some capacity. So I
that
chose
was
an
very
MBA.
smart. Very
Yeah, well,
smart.
I chose an MBA. And well, why did you exercise science? I mean, again, at the end of the day, training is training. I mean, this stuff has been around forever. Okay. So you know what works, what doesn't work. And if it's programmed um, in the right manner, it's going to work. Can everybody argue my way is better? 100% they can. But unless you buy in and then your kids buy in, it doesn't matter. So that being said, I went and did an MBA because I saw the landscape of collegiate athletics changing to where the strength coach is really your COO. He's your chief operating officer.
Correct.
He has the pulse on everybody that's in the building. So I saw that. And consequently, then after we won a national championship, I ended up leaving and started my own business. But I say all that in regards to your question. And when you go and you approach it in the business mindset, if you look how college football is now, everybody's building new facilities. They are all logoed and stickered and murals and images. Why? That's called marketing. Okay. Because you're marketing not only to recruits, but also to the players that are walking in the door, also to the coaches that are coaching in your ability to have a staff that has some continuity moving forward. If not, they're just jumping ship and going to the next paying job, right? And higher paying job. So all of that in and of itself is marketing and branding. Okay. So at the pro level, of which I played, my entire value proposition to them was my job is to maximize your value and extend your career. That's all encompassing. Everybody has a value. My job is to maximize it. One way of doing that is keeping you healthy. Right? So play 17-game season. If you have to get 6.5 sacks and you only play 14 games, well, if you're able to play 3 more games, don't you think you have a better likelihood of getting 7 sacks to make an additional $500,000? The answer is yes. So let's keep you safe. So maximizing your value. That value is I have a practice squad guy. Okay. Well, he's out there getting the absolute crap ran out of him because why? He's a practice squad guy. Let's run the crap out of all the practice squad guys out there. Bump them. They're supposed to give us this look and we pay them money. No, they're giving you that look because if you hurt them, all that volume falls on to the second guy who's also playing special teams that then falls onto the first guy. It's a trickle down effect. So we got to also maximize their value because what happens if somebody does go down? They got a concussion, right? They get hurt, they break a bone and they can't play. Well, he's going to be ready. He's going to be called upon. Well, I got to make sure that I maximize your value so that I can extend your career and allow you to put your best foot forward on Sunday so that eventually you can sign a contract.
This is like when I trained the JV guys on football. I'm telling them, we're getting you ready because you never know who might get hurt. You never know who's going to see you on the coach sees you on JV and is impressed and pulls you up. And so what you're saying has a parallel to just, you could move it over to any other level.
Bro, it's everybody. It's everybody.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy, but it goes back to what, like, you have to motivate and engage, motivate and engage, motivate and engage. And number one is at that level and at the college level, they are the customer. Like the reason I invented the striking machine is because I was getting my MBA and Dan Gilbert, who owns the Cavs and Quicken Loans and all these other places, Rocket Mortgage, I think as well. He said that you, like in business, you had to see things through a prism. And it's just, and every time you have a new model or an idea, it's like looking through this at a different lens. And in college athletics, I was like, okay, I'm just like looking at all the crap that we got out there. Like the lens was this: the customer is the athlete. Though the hardest working, toughest, but also most inherently lazy people on the face of the planet will give you the shirt off their back for some swag, but are the same people that won't walk 100 yards to go hit a football sled to get better at their craft. Same people. Okay. That was a problem, right? Like in the NFL, the Jaguars at the time did not have any type of recovery stuff. Like they had a whirlpool, right? But they didn't have a float tank. They didn't have a cryo chamber. They didn't have an infrared bed. Like all these things that actually help a person recover. None of them was there. They were all outsourced. Well, how likely are they to go use it? Well, the year before, 10 to 15 guys used it. So let's say they used it 10 times. That's 150 visits throughout an entire season. I'm being hypothetical, but that's probably the numbers, probably actually lower, right? Dry needling is another one. I love dry needling. All right. Everybody in the building that could do it, they were dry needlers. They were certified. That being said, we built a recovery room, 1,300 visits. You can't make that stuff up.
Because it was convenient.
Right?
I've been saying this, that like we're seeing, so I have the private facility, which I started about 20 years ago. And I explained to other coaches is that if you want your strength and conditioning business booming, connect it to sports. So put a basketball court, put hitting cages or hitting nets up, because you're a dad, I'm a dad. I need a clone to get my kids to all these sporting events. The tricky thing is, you know, I've through business, I've never taken a loan. I've always done my own, but I think that we're seeing this now with kind of these like mega facilities, is they're putting the sports performance under the same roof so parents can just drop off and come back 2 hours later. We had a facility like that in a building with jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, and we all shut down during COVID, but the wrestlers would train with us and then go and wrestle twice a week. And so it boosted, like what you're saying, the compliance and the follow through of everything. You know, with your kids involved in sports, what are, you know, as a dad, I'm assuming you guys are quite on the runaround, and are you traveling back and forth to Ohio, or are you full-time Florida?
No, we live full-time in Florida. The Difference USA, my business is it's in Columbus, Ohio. So I made it there. I have 2 patents. We sell it all over the country. Rogue sells it, you know, Powerlift, Sorinex, you name it. every major vendor sells our product. So I got a little system up there. It's all made in the United States. It comes to my shop. It gets assembled, gets fulfilled and shipped, and super fun. And it does what it does. And then I'm also kind of involved in kid. And again, it's just, I see problems. I love to create solutions. I love to execute. That's what I get passionate about. So I'm working on how do we solve the problem for basically, reading comprehension in the state of Ohio, and then you really go through and you look at the problem. And it's so funny because everything ties together. But the problem in the state of Ohio, in my honest opinion, is chronic absenteeism. And here's the deal, man. Like Urban said this, I believe it wholeheartedly. Greatness is the accumulation of great days. It's why consistency in the weight room matters, right? So if I show up every single day and I work and I work and I work, I'm gonna progressively get better, man. It just happens.
Simple.
Right. And I think too
Simple,
many times
not easy.
We think about like, oh man, I gotta put a 10 on, I gotta put 5. No, it's okay. Literally talked about it, man. Go and put a 2.5. That's fine. You just went up like that much. Think about that over time.
Yeah, or
right?
do the same weight but better technique, or
right,
a tad faster.
It's
now you're better.
It's accumulation. And you have to, so chronic absenteeism, well, if they don't want to go to school, how are you hiring or trying to hire teachers when you already have a human capital shortage in your state? It's not going to work, right? So you got to think outside the box. And again, if kids want to become better at reading, it's not going to be what you do in the classroom, though I think teaching phonics and all that stuff is good. If they got to get caught up, they can't get caught up while they're in the school. They got to get caught up while they're out of school. So there's twofold. One, you have to engage kids to want to be at school.
Yep.
And two, you have to engage them and motivate them to want to do extra reps outside of school if you want to catch up. Like there is, again, everybody thinks that the problem is in academia, everybody thinks there's a magic bullet. There is no magic bullet. The magic bullet is I got to do everything I possibly can to maximize that kid's value. That's strength conditioning.
I've been in schools since 98. And I think schools are in big trouble. I'm in a school. So we're in New Jersey. You don't hear kids saying, I'm going to college for education. You used to hear it a lot. I think I'm a little older than you. So like when I was going through college in the early to mid 90s, people said, yes, being a teacher is going to be great. Being a cop is going to be great. And schools, in my opinion, like you said, kids are not motivated or excited to do it. I almost feel like kids could go to school for like 2.5, 3 hours. Then after that, they should find places to get mentored or like be an apprentice somewhere to work on a skill. But being in school for 7 hours a day, like you said, the absenteeism, I think, from what I recall as a kid, you could get 10 unexcused. When I'm looking at like the stuff of kids, I'm looking at 27 to 32 absences. That's a lot. That's almost one a week.
How are you gonna? You can't learn if you're not in school. I mean, that's just like, listen. And again, our teachers, underpaid, do a great job. So
homeschooling is what's gonna blow up.
Putting more on their plate, but then that puts pressure on the family. Like, who's gonna be the one doing it? Like my kids, like I wouldn't. My wife, like I don't want to teach these kids. But then it's like, well, then you're gonna have even a bigger separation, right? It's gonna be the haves and the have-nots. Like we're gonna send them to private school. Then you're gonna have all you others. Like, again, at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. Being a teacher is a service. Being a coach, you are an educator.
Yes.
So I think it's this, man. Like we got to think outside the box as to how do we engage, how do we communicate, and teach our young people. That's it, man. And guess what? The thing that I learned is, and this comes from coaching, though we think they should do it because that's how we did it, is not the way that they're going to do it. So we need to go down at their level and think and meet them where they are to raise them up, right? And I also agree with you in this. I think more schools, especially high school, need to give kids access to trades.
Yes.
I mean, I'll tell you what, man, there's not enough auto mechanics out there that do a great job with a high GSF. Mm-hmm. I would love to pay you money. You know what I mean? Or electricians or carpenters, right? All those jobs are in high demand. Where are they going to go do it? You don't need to go to a trade school. I mean, now we live in the state of Florida, and we are very blessed in the fact that they have bright futures down here. If your kid gets a 3.75 and X amount on their SAT or ACT, they get to go to school in-state tuition for free.
That's
That's
right.
amazing,
Yes.
right? They have some other programs. And I told my kids, like, your job right now, your job is to do your sport and get bright futures. Oh, side nugget, you're going to take college courses over the summer and throughout the year because you can actually graduate with an associate's degree. That's your job. That's saving me money, but do it at a high level. I'm here to support you, right? So that's how I look at it. That's their understanding, right? And then guess what? If you get to go, play baseball somewhere else, or you get to go do cheer in college, great. But you start out as a sophomore or a junior because of the work that you put in while you're in high school. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? Then if you go play for 4 years, now you leave with a master's. That's a win,
I've known
right?
a couple of kids that have done that. And you were mentioning like, hey, the school, the education, there's I don't know if you know, but like the homeschooling sector is really blowing up now. And
It is.
a buddy of mine is in North Carolina and has helped like push, I don't want to say push a lot of that, but he's gotten the word out quite a lot and helped create some of these academies. Like Tim Kennedy opened one
Mm-hmm.
of them in Austin, and it's experiential learning
Yep.
versus sitting in the class and listening. They need to, I think, like research and do projects and actually go outside of the school. Hey, you want to learn about cars today? We're going to take, I don't know if it's where it is in Ohio, but there was a Ford plant in Edison, New Jersey. And I remember a kid I trained when they closed the Ford plant, they moved to Ohio. So it's, hey, you want to learn about cars? We're going to spend 2 hours a day. You're going to find mechanics in the area, and that's where you're going to go. But schools are too, I think, closed. It's like strength coaches that are like, the only way to get fast is to do XYZ, when what you said is there's a lot of ways that we can achieve the end result. My way, I'm not saying is the best way, but schools, what I've learned with schools is they kind of uh go against what it takes, as far as like, here's what it takes to be successful. You wanted to start the difference. You needed a plan. You needed to do research. You didn't have to wait 6 months to get approved by somebody to just build the website. In school, when you want to do something, it has to get approved at the Board of Ed meeting, and that's only once a month. Then I'm emailing somebody and they've got 100 emails. So it moves slow. Whereas, like, if I want something in my gym, I order it, I make a phone call, or I start making moves right away. So schools in that respect, they're like the antithesis to what we really need to be doing, which I think speed and execute. You always say dominate. When I
We got
want
to
to
execute.
dominate something, I got to move fast. I want to
Yes.
like I want to switch to a topic kind of on this though, Anthony. So you were in Ohio. I didn't know you were living in Florida full time, but in Ohio, you're on a farm, right? Is that where your shop is? You bought a
No, 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 no. That's just a farm, man. That's just my farm.
oh,
So I
how
mean, I
did
live in Jacksonville full time because when I was coaching with Urban and for the Jags, like we moved down here,
the whole family
and
moved? So
so,
I wasn't
oh
sure if you
yeah,
were commuting,
oh no, man, the whole
splitting
family
the
moved. Like,
family up.
listen, and again, it's weird. Like, there's people that live apart and do their
Yes,
coaching jobs. I could not do that. Like, my
me
family
neither.
is important, um, and everybody's different. So, when I took this job, I was on the Morning Juice with Bobby Carpenter and Brandon Beam, and I mean, they didn't have it was on our ESPN affiliate right there in Columbus, Ohio. Became the number one morning show. I get a call from Urban. I mean, like I had everything was great down there. It just, and then you come down here, and then 2021 happened, right? And
Yes.
you're like, why? Like, why does all this stuff happen? Listen, I don't know, but all I know is this: is my kids were thriving down here in Florida, and everything that I ever wanted for them from a high school perspective is right here in Florida. So I'm like, and we got a great church. I got great neighbors. I'm like, man, I'm not moving my
Are they in
family
a
back.
private school or public school?
No, public school, man. Right. I mean, it's like 6 minutes away outside my neighborhood, turn left, turn right, boom. And I'm like, this is great. So we decided to stay. Now I have a farm there in Ohio,
H-
190 acres, got an
How did you
18
get the farm?
farmhouse.
What was the process of buying
My,
land? Because a lot of the listeners
yeah,
are like me, trying to become more self-sufficient, whether it's food, and I want to talk a little bit about your hunting. I know you don't have a whole lot of time left, but
Oh, you're
let
cool, man.
talk about the process of getting the land. How did it start? Where did
Oh,
websites, all the whole
every,
planning?
every time I do stuff, like it's, you know, it was meant to be. It's meant to be. Like, I mean, I remember when I started the Difference USA. Yeah, I just got to remember we won a national championship. I'm the associate director for Ohio State football. You normally go be a head strength coach, and I decided to like get out of coaching because I had an MBA and I didn't want to move my family around. So I made an executive decision and I got out of coaching.
Why did
And then
you feel like when, because you're right, the coaches will
well, you
move
move around.
every other
Yeah,
year.
you move around, and like I just looked at my wife. I'm like, hey, we're not going to do this. And then consequently, I started a business for a striking machine. She's like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm like, I don't know. I'm convicted to go do it. We're going to do it. And I bootstrap it, and we freaking make it happen. And 8 years later, we've sold over 3 million in revenue, and we're in 27 NFL clubs and 120 plus Division I colleges, and we're all over the place. So it's all
It's
good,
right
right?
for
But you
those.
grind your face off. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. People, it just doesn't happen. You learn a lot of lessons along the way. I'll tell you, I mean, side nugget, great lesson, can't replicate you, right? Like what always, every time I look at stuff, like what is going to move the needle? And again, I have two patents. One of them is the striking machine. The other one is a completely portable weight room. Great idea, great product, not scalable because I don't manufacture my own equipment.
I think I
So,
saw old video of it.
yeah, so my margins aren't good enough for me to sell it. So guess what? Stop selling it.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? Always focus on what moves the needle. And what moves the needle with me is not me hiring people in my shop to sell. It's having partnerships and distribution, and me being smart enough to reduce my cost of goods sold. So where I'm now more of a just in time inventory. I order 50 or 100 or 300 things at a time. They come in, bam, bam, bam. There's a process. It's done. I can still sell it at a reasonable price. I can still give my distribution channel reasonable margin. And guess what? Attack and dominate. Just go do what you do. But on the farm, it was very similar. Like I've hunted my whole life. Brian Dobson got me into hunting when I was in Texas.
It's
So I'm
amazing.
training at Metroflex Gym. Brian was a hog hunter. So he had his own pack of dogs. And when I was about 16 years old, he started taking me with him, and we would hunt wild pigs in Texas with dogs and a knife. That's it.
Oh, you didn't
And
take, I couldn't remember if he started you hunting with a rifle or a
oh,
compound bow.
never.
A
No, no.
knife,
And
like
I've always
Rambo.
started. Well, yeah, but like I didn't jump out of trees. The dogs are the ones that do all the work. We just happen to go in there, grab them, flip them over, and stab them. And then we backpack it out. And again, it was great because I'm in high school. I'm training my face off. I like come to school the next day and I'd have like briar patch just cut all over my chest. I'd be bleeding everywhere. It's amazing. And I just walk home like Brian would cut out like a tenderloin and I'd wrap it up in like a baggie and I'd stick it in my freezer. My mom's like, "What the hell is this?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." And that was it. It was amazing, right? And so,
I think I heard you guys would hang it in front of the gym and then grill.
oh my gosh, man, yeah, we would go out there and we'd skin it and pull out the old like where you would do like hanging crunches,
Yeah.
and we would take like clips and chains off of the cable crossover and hang them there. Like when I was in the league, I had my own pack of dogs, and I mean we'd kill like 150 of them,
What
a
kind of
year or trap
dogs?
them.
Pit bulls
Oh
or
no, I mean there people use pit bulls for like catch dogs, and they got like triple layer Kevlar on them. I had Catahoula Dogo crosses, those were my catch dogs. But like I had a Walker Hound, I had a
hound
Plot
dogs?
Hound, Blackmouth Cur mix, Catahoulas.
And where do you get your
Oh man,
dogs from? Like a shelter or a breeder?
oh back then just hillbillies, man. Like hey, these dogs hunt pigs. Like great, and are they
Texas
closed
living.
mouth or are they open mouth? Like what that makes a lot of difference. I didn't like to run open mouth dogs, so we'd run closed mouth dogs. So that means they only
What's
bark when they have the
Oh,
pig
okay.
in front of them, right? Like they're like they got the pig stopped, they'll start barking. That means get your butt here, and like we would get there and then we'd kill it, right?
I heard
So
those pigs were like they'll
sure,
charge at you.
guess what? Don't get charged, man. Kill them. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, like I've swam rivers. It's been crazy, but I'll tell you what, I will never change it. I mean, I would still love to do it. I don't because I live in Florida, and if I had a bunch of dogs in the back of my house, my HOA would probably go crazy.
I
That's
think
all, man.
I know when I've
I
driven to
don't think that's on
Florida,
the HOA bylaws, man.
I see the like the hogs off the side of the highway when I'm driving to
Oh
there's a
yeah,
when we go to Lake George a couple times a year. So a guy up there, a great guy, he takes people out fishing 2 to 4 hours at a clip. So he's there June, July, August, maybe September. Then in the winter, he goes to Florida and takes people hog hunting. So
that's
fishing,
amazing.
I know. So he took
What a
his
guy.
so I said, took his passion. And so while we're fishing, he's also fishing. And
Yeah,
while he's taking people hunting, he's hunting.
he's hunting. Yeah,
He's
man.
doing what he loves and just getting paid to do it. So very cool that Brian,
Oh,
mentored you. I say
oh
this
man.
too, Anthony, like the gyms of today, that doesn't happen anymore because everybody's plugged into their AirPod. Even kids training together are disconnected
I
because
don't
of the
even know how
phone.
that even happens, man. Like if I was training with somebody and they had AirPods in, I would knock their AirPods out.
Exactly.
I would. I mean, part of it like is I honestly my best ideas in business come from when I train.
The same. You get
My best
creative.
conversations of how I want to talk to my son about something or my wife about something or about a meeting I have coming up, training. Hands down, man. I mean, I used to make like stupid funny commercials with my buddies. Like we would think about these things while we were training. We were just going after it and we'd
It's
ad lib, but we always
it
did our sets. It wasn't
it
like it was
stimulate
stopping
your
us.
creativity, I
Oh yeah.
believe. So
Oh
for
man, let me
me, I
tell
train
you.
every morning. Not I go Monday through Friday. My wife has learned like that's my therapy. I call it iron therapy. What you have
Yeah.
that saying of like what is it called? Like feed the you
Oh yeah, yeah. Slay your selfish beast, feed the good beast, and feed it iron. That's what I do.
feed it
Yeah.
iron. And for
Feed it
me,
iron,
if
man.
I don't train in the morning, I'm usually not the most like the best person to be around. My creativity's not there. So I'm always like, I'll go and train. And I know Dave Tate, he said when he wrote his first book Under the Bar, he wrote it like in this little on a table in the corner of his Elite FTS compound, just to be amongst the weights. So when I was in
Yeah.
high school, I did homework at the gym, and the guy at the front desk was like, doing homework at the, here. I was like, yeah, is that okay? He's like, yeah, you just got to be amongst the weights, right? I said, yes. He's like, I said, do you understand that? He said, absolutely. He's like, go ahead, kid, do your thing. So I would hear the plates rumbling and
Yeah.
I could do my homework. And I can't explain it, but I know you understand. And
Oh yeah.
those who know understand, it's like has this calming effect, even though you're doing something, but you're slaying your selfish beast. You're like, you're developing this strength that allows you to overcome things. It's something so powerful, hard to put into words.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that we have to take away from that is that we know that that exists and we know how it exists for us, but other people have it in a different capacity.
What do you mean by that?
And meaning like I don't know, some people it might be music, some people it might be
Yes,
going on a walk, right? Like
correct.
my wife hates training, bro. So you know where my wife gets it? Being outside,
Yes,
going on a walk.
I love the outdoors.
So again, what works for us doesn't work for somebody else, but there's
Correct.
something else that will work for others, right? Like that's I think too many times in this world of like my way is the best way. I want to post about that way. I'm looking at other people that are like-minded. We get too caught up into that as to all right, what is it that they actually like doing that can move the needle for that person in that capacity? So I mean, like go back to the farm perspective we were talking
Yes,
about. So when I was doing my MBA while I was coaching, working 80 to 100 hours a week,
it's
um,
crazy.
I was like, there's a thing. It's like, what are you committed to and what are you involved in? And I wrote a list down. And I was involved in like 10 different things, all of which were very good. I whittled that down to 4 things of what I was committed to. And it was my faith, my family, the Buckeyes, and my MBA. I didn't do anything else. I didn't play golf. I didn't hunt. I trained not like I wanted to.
Right.
Um, but that's it, man. That's all I did. I didn't watch TV. I studied, right? I trained at Buckeyes. I was with my family, faith, family, Buckeyes, and the NBA. And I think too many
Discipline.
times people get caught up in they confuse activity with achievement in a lot of the different areas of their life, and they're associated or active in a lot of things as opposed to being committed into a few. Now, when I decided to make the call and we purchased this farm, which was a blessing in and of itself, my
How did you
father-in-law and
find
I,
the farm? How did
well,
you
I hunted on the backside of this property, and it came up for sale, and I was notified, and I approached my father-in-law. I said, hey, listen, I think this is a really good real estate opportunity. It was an older woman. She wanted to sell it. Everybody was nickel and diming her, trying to parcel it off and get it on the cheap. And who doesn't want a good deal? Like, I mean, that's a fact, right? But I did my due diligence. I went up to talk to her. I didn't have anybody else talk to her. I went and talked to her. I had it appraised multiple times of like, this is a good deal. I didn't want to put 20% down. I wanted good rates. And it all worked out. I got 10% down. I got 4.5% interest. And we purchased that farm. And we made money immediately off the purchase. And then over the last 5 years, it's doubled. Right. So, but again, you get out what you put out. And when you own property, listen, when I bought that farm, I didn't play golf anymore. So again, I said faith, family, the Buckeyes, and then it was the farm. Right. Like I didn't go play golf. I might have done a scramble when I had to,
why?
but
Because
I
you're
enjoyed
taking care of the land.
I'm taking care of the land. Like I have responsibilities. Like I was blessed with the opportunity to own this land. Shame on me if I was going to take 5 hours of my day, because guess what? Now it's affecting my kids, right? So it's like, hey, if I'm going to be gone, I'm going to be gone working on the farm because I made that purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too many times it's like, hey, I got to go get mine. Well, I knew what mine was when I made that purchase. So everything else that I think I necessarily need, I don't need because I made that purchase. I think too many times as males, we want to say, no, I got to get mine in all these different areas. Like, listen, I don't go out to bars. I don't want to go out to bars. If I want to drink bourbon, I'll drink good bourbon right here in my house. I don't want to go pay somebody $30, for some Colonel Taylor. I'll just drink it right here,
We
if
are
I
the
want,
same, dude.
if I
We are
wanted
the
that,
same.
right? But I think too many
Yeah.
times it's people see all these other people. And I had a good conversation with a buddy of mine. It was talking about kids, and it's just like, you're holding me back, right? Like, holding you back from what? Are you mean to tell you I'm holding you back from going out, getting drunk, having sex, like doing all these things? Like, if that's what you think I'm holding you back from, then by all means go do them, because I know where they lead. And I think us as guys, like, we got to have all these different things. Like, I have my dude community. I fill those buckets when I go back to Ohio State and I train with John Simon and Nate Ebner, who are absolute freaking animals. And I'll go to, and Bobby, and I see AJ, and there's James Laurinaitis, and I got my boy Frank right here, Mangizi, right next. He fills my bucket when we freaking get trained.
Jersey guy.
When I go to the farm and I'm out there and I'm working on the farm and I'm cut randomly hillbilly stuff, and I got my truck with a winch across this little creek, and there's a tree, monster pine tree right next to my house, and I'm not paying anybody to cut it down. I'm going to cut it down. And I hillbilly cut this thing down, and it works perfectly. Like, it visually happened the way I wanted to. Like, I like that. That fills my bucket, right? I got 10 boys that are out there. I'm teaching them how to be, safe on the gun range. They're shooting 5.56s. We're shooting pistols. They understand that that's a firearm. That's to be respected. This is how you handle it. That's how I fill my bucket, right? I don't need to go fill it and dress a certain way, act a certain way. I'm going to be authentically me all the time. And that's how I like it, right? So, but when we make those type of commitments to, again, we talk about property, you want to have investments, you want to open a gym, like, you can't do all those other ancillary things, because you will become a shadow of your elite self. And when you compound it and confide it into those 4 to 5 things, I think that's how you get maximized, in my honest opinion.
Elite self. It's interesting the stuff you say, because I consult with strength coaches and have to explain to them, listen, some parents will opt to take the money and drink on weekends, have fancy cars, bigger house, or other parents might say, you know what, I'm getting a basic car, and I want to help my son or daughter be great at these XYZ sports, and I'm going to take that money and time to invest in them. And you're right. So some people choose, and who am I to judge? But just like you're
Not
saying,
judging.
this is what I choose to do. because that's what I love. Do
I'm
you
gonna give
think
you an example of that. My guy
yes.
Frank. So Frank, I mean, retired from New Jersey State Highway Patrol. That dude every month, like he's still going doing contract work off site somewhere a month at a time. Why? Because he's got a daughter in college in Tampa. He's got a daughter in college at FAU. He's got a daughter going to Queens. He's got a ninth, about ready to be a ninth grader. So yeah, he's making that money, but he's also side hustling all the time. Right? He's like, these are the cars. He's like, no, man. He's like, my job is to provide for them. They got skin in the game,
Yep.
but like I'm here to assist. And I'm like 100%. Like
I love it.
that's what we're called to do. Now, if you don't want to do like all I'm saying is that is fine.
Mhm.
But I know me, and again, I'm just talking to you about my experience. The same thing you said. Like, listen, bro, like this is how we choose to do it. I'm not going to be house poor. Kids don't need stuff; they need experiences. They're not going to remember the stuff you bought them, but they'll remember the trip that you took to Florida Atlantic to go watch a baseball game, or that you went to the beach together, or that you took a trip to Ohio and all their friends were down there, or you went to Costa Rica. Right? Like
Yeah.
those are the things they remember. Those are the stories they remember, not the stuff they
100%.
get.
This is very it's yeah, it's powerful. So with
I'm gonna give you one more side nugget.
yeah, let's hear it.
Don't push your kids into something that they don't want to do either.
That's
Like my
right.
son, my 11-year-old, he could be a very good baseball player. I'll tell you this though, travel baseball, as you guys all know, especially in the South, it's every weekend, all the time, nonstop.
They're
I got
playing
high
in
school,
December. It's crazy.
and I told him, I was like, listen, he loves football. I was like, cool, you can play football. I was like, what do you want to practice? Do you want to practice golf or do you want to practice baseball? Because again, you can't be elite if you don't practice. He's like, I'll
Mhm.
practice golf. And though we struggled a little bit, guess what? Golf was within the community. Baseball was not. So I'm not going to run my family ragged or put that pressure on my family to go to travel baseball and do something of which you're not going to practice. Don't even do it. Don't even let them, even though you might like, they might go back to it. Don't sacrifice your family and your time to go push them down something that you think they have or have not. Because next thing you know, they're gonna be burned out in 2 years because you're the one that was grinding the absolute piss out of them.
They have to
Right?
love it.
To me, it's not worth it. Right? They got to love it. You're
You
absolutely
know,
correct.
what's been challenging though is um hearing your love for the human is what I think makes you a great coach. But you, Anthony, yes, you're a great technician, you're great at coaching, but you love the person, you love the people you're serving. Being in tennis and travel sports, I've been around a lot of clubs and coaches, and it breaks my heart when I'm like, man, what, does this coach have no fire, no passion? Do you know what? I don't want my kid to be around somebody who's at like punching the clock. And it's been, my kids are right behind yours. So it's not like I've only been to a
Right.
few clubs, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm in shock at coaches who are not like have the fire. They ain't got the
Well,
juice.
I'm gonna put it this way. I've also learned that nobody has our juice. Okay, and we can't hold them to that standard. My 16-year-old does not, man. And I will say this: I tell him, I'm like, dude, I love the fact that you lead in your authentic manner. He's not the guy that's going to go get in somebody's face. He's not the guy that's going to go, if you're doing something stupid, he's not going to fight you. Like he's like, listen, man, that's not my job. My job. AJ was very much like that. AJ didn't say a damn thing, but AJ would knock your dick off. That's a fact. Bobby would say a lot of stuff. I was kind of in the middle of the road um, on both sides, but we expressed it with how we play and how we handle ourselves and how we performed. And not all coaches are going to be that way. You look at Jim Tressel. Jim Tressel, he wasn't overly expressive of like excited. Like you might get a fist pump every now and then, but like I would say this, Tressel's teams were very steady Eddie. Because why? Tressel's very steady Eddie. Urban's teams were very up and down and volatile. Why? Because Urban was very volatile, right?
Emotions.
So again, like what I have really learned a lot in my profession, and just being around a lot of people is they're all different. And what really matters the most is the performance.
Meaning, what do you mean? The performance of the team in the end or the
What do
performance
you
of the
win? Right? Like,
do you
like
win? Yeah.
again, like I mean, like Coach K is not just one of those guys that is like you look at him and he just embodies juice. But his give a shit factor and outside the box thinking and the ability to cultivate and culture and have the culture of a team is undeniable through his success, right? Um, Greg Popovich doesn't exude a tremendous amount of juice, but he's won a lot of games and a lot of championships.
Why do you
I don't
think?
because I think he's elite at the relationship.
That's what I'm talking about. Is that's
Jim
what I
Tressel is
missing
yeah.
is
So Jim Tressel is elite at the relationship, and here's the point to it. It's thinking it's thinking less of yourself and more of others, but not necessarily less of yourself, right?
correct.
The
Yes,
humility aspect.
humility.
Jim Tressel, this is a true story. Jim Tressel knows the name of everybody he meets. I swear, I think it like he was like, oh, Jim. And like this, he hadn't seen Jim in 5 years, but he met him at some like charity auction and they had a convo. The only way that can occur is if you value that person as a person. Tress valued all of us as men more so than as athletes. And in doing so, we would run through a brick wall for that guy. And still to
That's
this day.
that's what I find. The coaches are maybe coaching the technical aspect, but they're missing like the connecting on a deep level with the kid, which I believe helps the kid build their confidence. Then the kid,
Why? Why do you think that is? Do you think
they
it's something in our
feel valued, and then they start believing in themselves. And when you're a teenager, that's hard to actually believe in yourself. You're
well, why do you think the coach doesn't anymore? Like that's again, like times have changed a lot, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, the amount of time that you have to be able to spend with your athletes is short. The criticism that they get, right? Like
it could be a
all this
thankless
encompasses,
job sometimes
you
or
know,
oftentimes.
I mean, oftentimes, I mean, like these guys get hardly any excitement and they do it because they care.
Yes.
So I think it's, how do you find that time? Like I was talking to my son's baseball coach, and he was just telling me how awesome they were running this baseball camp and what he should do. I said, man, you should take some of that money and take them out to eat. I was like, because there's no better than fellowship with their teammates and their coach.
Yes.
Like they'll remember that experience, and you get to know them. I think the reason they're not as much is they don't have as much opportunity to get to know the kids anymore.
Because we're on
Because
the run around all the time.
the kids are always running. They're running to school. They're running here. They're running there. After school, they're going somewhere. Parents are dropping them off. Like, when is the time where you actually get to sit down
We've
and see what's going
lost.
on?
We've lost
Right.
a lot. I've said to, I spoke with, who the heck was I? Oh, I was speaking to a guy today who played football in college and wrestled in college, Cornell and Hofstra Masters.
Yeah.
So I said, I have this kind of, I don't know if it's like a observation of never before have I seen kids so busy doing so much stuff, yet achieving so little in return. Um, 2 or 3 years ago was the first time in 20 years that I didn't have a wrestler qualify for the states. When I was training wrestlers out of my parents' garage with a light bulb and nothing but 2 sets of dumbbells and stones in the backyard and a shitty 300-pound barbell set from Costco, we had a kid qualify for the states. And now
Yeah.
we have kids going to mindset coach, a club, a wrestling club, then a different wrestling club for privates, then this and that. They're doing all this shit, but they're like, I think they're just trying to survive to get
I
from
told you,
one thing to the
bro, I
next.
told you, man, do not confuse activity with achievement. That is
Yes.
in all things. That is in business. That is in sports. People are like, hey, you got to go out there and you got to make X, Y, and Z and do all these different posts. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. You know what I do? Like, I just provide great customer service and a great product. And I mean, I got a school that hit me up today and like showed me a picture and I had an attachment that was broken. Bro, this is straight up from 4 years ago. And the guy, I mean, these machines have probably been struck hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times
Yeah.
over the. No, you got to think about it. Like every time you hit it, you're going to hit it 10 times. You get 100 different athletes. You only got 4 of them. Think about that. Like that's a long time for 4
Yes.
years, right?
Yes.
It's going to break. I just sent him a new one. It's like, all right, cool. I'd rather eat that cost and have a great brand ambassador
The same.
than nickel
But
and dime them. But
people won't do
but
that anymore.
I'm not going to go confuse activity with achievement. Like I got to go hit up all these social media posts. I got to do all this XYZ. I said, you know what? I'm cool with having a distribution channel. And that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to fulfill the product. I'm going to assemble the product, ship the product, and help those people. That's it. But again, I just think too often, all of us in our business, we confuse activity with achievement. And I think, to your point, these kids that do so much, they're overtrained. I think they're overtrained. I think that,
and undernourished and under rest. They're not eating steak and eggs and drinking whole milk. They're barely getting by. They're eating out of
well,
a
their
7-Eleven.
central nervous system is crashed. You know,
Yeah,
they got a bunch of stress, right? Like their parents are paying for all this stuff. They got the stress of performing. They got the stress of school. They got all these different things. They're not sleeping enough. I mean, honestly, the best recovery thing is sleep, period. Sleep your
simple.
face off.
I heard these quotes: simple things done savagely well, and brilliance with the basics. So, hey man, work your ass off in your town baseball team,
Oh,
then
yeah.
train your ass off, and then, eat steak, eggs, drip. But that's not like fancy enough. And it's interesting that that's where we're at. It's kind of like crazy. You got this set up in your garage. You could train anywhere from a high school
Oh,
athlete to an Olympian
bro.
to an NFL player right
Oh,
there with just that.
my stuff is legit, man. Like my dad, we talked about is our thing was eat big, sleep big, train big to win big. That's it. That's what we did. Eat, sleep, train. And we called it slothing. Like I wanted to gain weight. He's like, well, you want to gain weight, you got to sloth. You can't be burning the candle at both ends.
Mm.
And we're like, facts. All right. So that's what we did. But that was kind of our slogan. But even in my home gym, like I got a reverse hyper glute ham combo. Love it.
The
I do so many things
Frankenhyper.
with that. Yeah, but I have one from Powerlift because it has a smaller
Yes.
footprint and I like it. I got this old cable crossover from Life Fitness that
Great.
did or did not come from Ohio State. I got some power blocks. I got a striking machine with a bunch of bands. I
Yep.
got Swornex full rack, and I got some DC blocks. But I got a lot of bars. Like I like the bars that goes more the conjugate method.
Me
I'm like,
too.
bro, and I got some body tempering stuff.
Me too.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, bro, we're good. We're good in here, man. We're getting bumpy. We're training. I feel really good. I'm 42, and I still feel like I could play. So, it's that's how I want it. It's like finding that balance of what are your goals, right? Like I don't need to be somebody else, but me, I think at like 215 to 220, so a little bit leaner, not with the love handles. So I want to get rid of those, but
I'm right behind.
um,
I'm 225, 227. I need to be 205, but if I can get to
well,
215, that's
I'm
serious.
228, 230. Yeah, I
Oh,
think it'd
let's
be
go.
yeah,
Competition is on.
but it's like, man, I don't need to go deadlift 800 pounds, but like if I could trap bar deadlift 700 for 5, I feel really good. If I can, it's just one of those, like if I can jump and I feel good mobility and I can go play a round of golf and get better and do stuff like sprint with my kids, like that's good, man. That's a win,
Yes. You
you know?
know, you know exactly where you need to be. You know what needs to be done. You know what's too much or going overboard. When you mentioned like your dad training you, do you remember the Bulgarian power burst from Leo Costa and Tom Platz that they were selling in like Muscle and Fitness and Flex?
No, I mean, I remember back then just that bigger, faster, stronger was huge.
Yep.
Everybody did 5 6 5.
I love five
Um,
by
I
five.
I remember when he was but like all those things though is like as intensity went up, volume stayed the same, and just people would just get absolutely just crushed.
That's right.
Um, but again, like I remember even doing the Bulgarian 18 sets, right? It'd be like 85, 90, 95. And then you do that for like 9 sets of one, and then you would go up to like 90, 95, 97 and a half, or there's 100 in there or whatever, and it was all bench. I mean, it's just what you did. I mean, like the bench lasted 45 minutes, and then you would do auxiliary work of, hypertrophy. And then, when I went to Metroflex, like we would start a workout, lower body workout with like set of 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 of leg extensions that would then go to 100. And then we would squat,
I
and then
did the same. Drop
we would
sets.
deadlift. Oh, drop sets. I tell you what though, man, drop sets will get you right. Like even as I'm training right now, like on my workout, like today would have been a really good day to. I won't do it today. I'll do it on the next day. But I'll deadlift on that day. But I'll probably do some like Hatfields with just some serious volume, or or some time under tension, like rear foot elevated stuff, or I want to go unilateral, um, I'll do that. I'll do drop sets. I love those, man. I mean, even the walks, the sled drags, they're all good, man. It's all, and that's the thing. They are all really, really good.
That's right. It
They're all
all
really, really
works
good. They
when
all
you
work, man.
work.
Yep.
I love
That's
it.
it, man.
Where, Anthony, for so I'm gonna link everything up in the show notes and on the website, but for people listening, what's the website? TheDifferenceUSA.com?
Yeah, thedifferenceusa.com.
You know, what's interesting is a lot of people think it's just football, but Rudy Reyes was utilizing it at Sornex, but he was utilizing it with like his martial arts, like Muay Thai
Right.
kicks, punches,
Yeah.
elbows, and you also have the attachments. So, did the wrestling background inspire that as well? So you're a hybrid athlete, wrestling and
Yeah.
football.
I mean, like I eventually added some arms to it, so where
Yep,
we could, they're called battle arms, so you can work on hand fighting for football.
which is
Um,
awesome.
I mean, you could punch it. I mean, I use it for baseball, just being able to rotate against something. You can do. Um, I mean, everybody can utilize it. I mean, I could put it at the top of the rack and I could jump up and push against it, and I could work on it for volleyball. I could pivot and post and use it for basketball. You know, if I'm in a weight room and I don't have any walls and I want to throw med balls at it, guess what? It becomes a wall that
Yes.
will shoot a med ball at you. I mean, like at the end of the day, how to utilize it, you can utilize it however you want to, man, as long as you use it.
Creativity, and
You
the
know,
athletes believe in a program when you're like, hey, we're gonna, like what you said, pivot and post. That's, they believe in it when you incorporate specificity. So whether
right.
the science book says it's correct or not, you were talking about it, like you got to get in their head. If they believe in a program, then they could dominate.
This whole thing started because one, I mean, I had Pat Elfline. Pat Elfline, he was a center in the NFL. I think he went to Remington. Corey Lindsley, who plays for the Chargers, he just left. He was a center. He left, got drafted by the Packers. Pat Elfline went from guard to center. And I literally made this thing out of it was an old a power lift dip bar, two pieces of angle iron, a 70-pound Toro lawnmower spring, and a 2x6 wrapped in carpet. I stuck it on a weight rack. And Pat literally did like an air snap and a stab 20 times to the right, 20 times to the left, and then left, and we got a protein shake. I'm just like, okay. Then I had another kid that was a walk on, and he did punt pro 10 right, 10 left, like kick, punch, got a protein shake out. I'm just like, okay. I was like, that's 40 reps and that's 20 reps that they never would have gotten simply because I put it in front of them. That was the point, right? It's a theory of marginal
Skill work,
gains.
built
It's just
skill.
skill work. And dudes that don't like the weight room, they like it because they think it's ball. And
Yes.
then you start to show them the drills and stuff that you do with it. Then again, that helps build a relationship. Hey, man, why do you like? Again, I'm talking to my son, and we're talking about unilateral work, and I'm like, son, like, why are we doing this? Unilateral med ball wall toss right here. Let's think about that in baseball. Let's think about that and in your pitching. Why is it so important that you have unilateral balance, right? Like, look at the top of your pitching motion. Why do you think we do pal offs, right? Because as I tuck, I don't want to be able to flare open. I want to stay nice and tight. I got to be able to brace. That's why we do these things.
It
Hey,
makes
Hunter,
sense to
I haven't
them.
been able to. Yeah, I was like, hey, I haven't been able to run you the way that I want to run you because you've been in school, you've been in ball, but we've been training. I was like, how is it that you've gotten faster? Because we've been training this way. We've been training with max intent and violently. And guess what? Now you're able to apply power to the ground violently, which ultimately makes you faster. Now we just got to work on some technical aspects of it. And it's like, oh, I get it. Right. And they start to see their work versus the other
Coaches
versus
don't
people that
talk
don't.
about this a lot, Schlegs. They talk about transfer of training, but then they don't talk about getting an athlete to believe and understand the program, which building an athlete's confidence is the ultimate transfer of training. That's
Yeah.
why, as much as the bench press is maybe not quote unquote functional, are you building the athlete's confidence? Then I'm going to do it. They like to
Right.
do arms. I'll do arms. What
Oh,
if
yeah.
they, to get them to look good? I'll do it.
Yep.
Listen, bro, I know you got to run. This has been awesome. We're going to
Yeah. It's
link it
4
up.
o'clock now. Let's go.
Oh
That
my, was
was
great.
great.
I have a funny feeling your buddy, the state trooper Frank, he went through his academy right down the street from me. So I'll send you a text where I'm at, and he'll be like, "Oh
Do
yeah,
it. Yeah.
I know
Frank
that
and
area.
Danielle Mangisi, man. They're great. They're great neighbors.
Love it." All right, you are the man. This will be out this week or next week. I want to thank everybody for listening. Check out the show notes below. I'm linking up Schlegel on Instagram, on Twitter, on his website, The Difference USA, and follow the man. That's it. Schlegs, thank you, my bro.
Appreciate it,
And
brother.
talk to you soon. Bye,
All
everybody.
right.